So maybe you've heard, maybe you haven't. Let's face it, you probably have. They made a Winnie the Pooh horror movie. Actually, they made two Winnie the Pooh horror movies. Actually, wait, better yet, they're making an entire cinematic universe centered around these Winnie the Pooh horror movies. It has creatively been titled the Poohniverse. So let's talk about it a little bit, shall we? Basically, Winnie the Pooh entered the public domain, and a low-budget horror film titled Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey started development. However, the trailer became so popular that the movie got an increased budget and released theatrically, making an insane profit. Was the film any good? Well, the 3% Rotten Tomatoes score paints a bit of a picture. Now, I'm not going to lie, as someone who really does not like horror movies, I had kind of a fun experience with this. I went to see it with some buddies. My friend's boss from work was there. Some dude in a Luigi costume just walked in. The film, I thought, was somewhat competently made, at least compared to what the trailer made it look like. There was actually some decent cinematography. The soundtrack actually kind of went hard. There were a lot of moments, whether intentionally or unintentionally, that were very funny. And again, maybe it's because of how horrible it looked in the trailer, but I was surprised that they even made any sort of effort at all to make the masks look like genuine creature faces. Winnie the Pooh's ears would move a little bit,
And honestly, it has a pretty intriguing premise.
the idea of Christopher Robin basically abandoning Winnie the Pooh and his friends and them coming out for revenge is interesting, and they do some really dark stuff with that. I actually love how the film starts in the art style of the original book, this little story of what happens afterwards. And Pooh and his friends having to survive on their own, and they dude, they ate Eeyore. So of course, Christopher Robin and his girlfriend come back to visit after years, and something's out of place. I actually really dig the set design for this creepy-looking 100-acre wood. Looks very nice visually. And then, of course, chaos ensues. Christopher Robin watches as Piglet strangles his wife to death, and then Winnie the Pooh comes in, and they take him, they torture him in this actually really sad and overly dark sequence for this kind of movie. And then for some reason, the rest of the film is just a very generic slasher, and that's coming from someone who doesn't watch slasher films. But there's just this group of girls go into a cabin in the woods, and Winnie the Pooh and Piglet just kill him. And that's the rest of the movie. Christopher Robin has a tiny role towards the end when he escapes Pooh and stuff, setting up the sequel. That's about it. This is not a good movie by any means, but the people who made it, I think, know that. They have said on occasions that, again, it's the best film they could have made with the resources in this still very small budget they had. So now, how about the film that has a larger budget? They were going for 10 times the budget of the original film, and I think the composer mentioned something about it having a $300,000 budget, which is still an incredibly small budget, let's be real here. But I mean, compared to a $50,000 budget, that is a huge upgrade. So how was Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2? Yes, they literally just called it Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2. They didn't want to add in a new subtitle or something. And if you were there to truly witness this moment in history, to truly appreciate this moment in history, there was a few days, not a few minutes, not a few hours, a few days that Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 had a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's a pretty big upgrade from the 3% the first film had. I think now the film's somewhere in the 50s, but that's still a substantial improvement over the score of the first film. Something I thought that was actually really funny that this film did was they actually made the first movie a movie within a movie. So they actually show the first film playing on a TV made by some people who were mocking Christopher Robin's story that he told about what happened in the 100-acre woods. Yeah, basically this was the film that they wanted to make all along. Literally everything about this film is a significant improvement over the first one. It's got a story to it this time around. There's a bit of an interesting mystery thing going on there. They even kind of played with the idea of Christopher Robin's childhood actually being more twisted than he remembers it, and his brain was kind of just protecting him, which is actually, again, an interesting idea. The very first moments of him meeting Pooh was just the funniest part of the movie. This time around, Pooh and his friends are not just people in masks. The costumes and prosthetics of this film are just so well done. And not only do the characters look way better, but they also act like horror versions of their Winnie the Pooh counterparts. Owl's always the one guiding them on what their next move should be. Piglet's always really nervous and just following everyone along. And Tigger is absolutely the best part of this movie. The Tigger in the Winnie the Pooh movies and shows and cartoons and stuff has such an energy to him that I actually think would translate really well into this twisted killer. Winnie the Pooh, we still got some work to do, but they do these little things where they like allude back to the classic Winnie the Pooh stuff. The part that really sold me is he says, "Oh bother," before Christopher Robin splits his head open with an axe. Also, by the way, these Winnie the Pooh human animal hybrid characters are basically X-Men. They basically just regenerate anytime they get injured at all. Like Piglet gets shot in the head, basically his first scene in the movie.
At the end of the film,
Pooh and his friends have seemingly been stopped for a little while, and Christopher Robin is safe with his sister and his girlfriend. So then we get a little tease in the credits of all the stuff that's coming next. This came out the week before Easter, and we got the reveal that Rabbit will be in the next film, as well as Heffalumps and Woozles, which is pretty interesting. So now, let's look to the future of the Poohniverse. So later this year, we're getting a film called Bambi: The Reckoning. And I guess it's about this murderous killer deer zombie version of Bambi that is like killing people in the woods. I mean, after the Winnie the Pooh plot for the first movie, you can kind of guess what's going to be happening in this film. There's someone who talks about it in the beginning of the trailer that he shot a deer. I wonder which deer that was. And now Bambi's out for revenge all these years later. Or maybe it was Bambi. Maybe Bambi's a zombie. But also this year, we're getting Peter Pan Neverland Nightmare. Seriously, I'm not making this up. These are the names of the movies. He apparently kidnaps Wendy's brother, or one of Wendy's brothers, and she has to go to Neverland to save him. That is really creepy sounding, actually. So, like, this one has some potential. Also, like, Peter Pan, I don't think would be that hard to do as a horror version. It's not that you need to make it look like this human man bear killing people or this completely CGI zombie deer. And then we get Pinocchio Unstrung, which, I mean, this one kind of writes itself. It's a killer doll movie. He apparently uses his nose to kill people, I think. The thing they talk about, like, the mini little presentation they give, Pinocchio will want to be a real boy. So he apparently takes the skin of someone he killed and wears it. Obviously, we're getting Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 3. It's really not much to say other than Pooh and his friends will be back. They'll have the rabbit and the Heffalumps and Woozles. We've already covered that. So let's get to the big, epic crossover event that this entire Twisted Childhood universe has been leading up to. If you think these titles couldn't get any weirder, the movie is literally called Poohniverse Monsters Assemble, with the logo being this play on the Avengers logo. So this film took inspiration from, you guessed it, the Avengers, but also like Freddy vs. Jason. There's not a lot of horror films where horror icons will come together and all fight each other or team up. So this is going to be like that. And honestly, it's one of the largest scale horror crossovers that I've at least heard of, because you've got these characters from all these different movies that they're making now, and they're all coming together. And I wonder if this is meant to be the end of the universe, if this is like the big finale they're leading up to, or if this is the beginning of a new chapter. We don't even know if this is going to come out before or after Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 3. So I think once we get details on that, we'll know. I'm guessing they're just going to keep making them. So look, I'm on board. I'll check some, if not all of these out. This is absolutely the most popular side of the whole turning public domain characters into horror icons and stuff. They're trying to do that a bit with Mickey Mouse, but so many people are doing it, I don't think it's going to really take off. So, I mean, it really just comes down to if you want to be along for the ride for these kind of films. It's a very weird idea, but I think there is some fun to be had here. But it does remain to be seen if they're going to be able to continuously make all of these different films and continue to make them enjoyable experiences and not to take themselves too seriously. I think Blood and Honey 2 is a step in the right direction. There was a lot more intentional comedy with that film, and hopefully we'll see that continue in with the Bambi film. But what do you guys think about this Winnie the Pooh horror universe? Do you think it's a fun adaptation of these classic stories, or do you think it is a spit in the face to these childhood characters? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, make sure to subscribe to the channel and drop a like on the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.